At ENvision Wired, we like to talk about turning short-term missions upside down or right side up, depending on your perspective. I like to talk about my first experience as a missionary hosting a short-term team because I feel like I did it all wrong, and I learned a lot from that. I started with the Gringo Church. A friend of mine in the U.S., a dentist, said, "Hey, you're moving to El Salvador. I've done lots of medical dental teams all over the world. Why don't I bring a team to El Salvador?" So I came down to El Salvador and I talked to my pastor, and he's a good, friendly, polite Central American. What's he gonna say? Yeah, sure, bring a team down. So that's what I did. I brought a medical dental team down to a middle-class neighborhood, and nobody needed the service. We had one customer the entire first day. It was a disaster. So what I did was I started with the Gringo Church and what we wanted to do for the Salvadorans. And then I found the Central American church that would accept us, and I poured out our blessing all over it, right? And I left a mess, and that's what happens a lot of times with short-term teams. The mess is left behind for the missionary to come clean up because we pour our blessing, what we want to do, all over the local church. The problem with doing it that way is it actually works a little bit. If you look really close, you'll see there's just a little bit of water in that glass, but only a very little bit. What I learned from that experience and what I do now is I start with the Salvadoran church. So I meet every year with the Salvadoran pastors and say, hey, what are you good at? What is your church passionate about? What are you doing to fulfill the Great Commission in your neighborhood? And when I talk to these pastors, local church leaders, and I talk to people who are doing good here through orphanages and other things like that we partner with, and say, what are you trying to accomplish? I start with the glass this way. I'm starting with their capacity and what they're doing well already. Then I take the blessing that we want to put out and our efforts, and I try to pour it in. Isn't that a whole lot better? So it holds a whole lot more water this way. Tastes good and a whole lot less mess to clean up. And believe me, missionaries don't like cleaning up messes. So what we're going to challenge you to do during your week with us is to turn short-term missions upside down by putting doing good over feeling good. It'll probably feel good a lot of times to just come do things, give things away, do things that you want to do rather than what the local church wants you to do, but you leave a mess behind when we do short-term missions that way. So instead, we're going to not do what feels good so much, instead do what is good. Now don't get me wrong, we want you to feel good. We want you to leave here with the Wired experience. Absolutely, for sure. But when doing good and feeling good collide and we have to choose, we're going to choose putting doing good over feeling good. That's the kind of week we're going to have together. And in the end, you're going to go home knowing that you actually did good rather than doing something that made you feel good and left a mess behind.